Welcome back everyone, thanks for being here. If you're new to the channel, please press on the red subscribe button and activate the notification bell. In today's video, you have now sold your event sponsorship package. Your client is looking forward to coming to your event. I'm gonna share 4 tips on how you can increase your renewal chances as much as possible with little things you can do pre, during, and post event. Stay with me. As sponsorship sales professionals, we are constantly working in an environment of competitive revenue targets. And if you have a new business type of role, chances are that you are used to dealing with a wide range of prospects at one given moment in time. Now, one of the most common errors that professionals in this space do, it's assuming that once the sale has been completed, you can just move on to the next prospects and forget about that customer that you've just closed because, he will come to the event is going to be good, and he's going to do his work, and then eventually he's going to return. But this is actually where most of the mistakes happen and where the surprises actually occur when your customer all of a sudden post-event is telling you that he's not going to come back. Sales professionals tend to focus very much on the pre-sale and on the actual sale itself. But they are forgetting all of those necessary steps that need to be taken into place in order to increase your chances as much as possible that that sponsor is going to continue coming back to your event over and over again. We tend to assume that these organizations are very used to coming to conferences. They've got a very sophisticated and slick outgoing team that they're going to put on the floor. They're going to have great collateral. They're going to have a great branding. They're going to have a great booth experience. They're going to have a great story to tell. Sometimes we're making those assumptions just because they're a big, well-renowned brand. Okay, and because we feel that they've been in the market for a long time, they do tons of these events, so this is just another one for them. But this is where things are gonna go very, very wrong, especially if you are not protecting yourself earlier on into the conversation. Okay, so as a sponsored salesperson, you can be one of 2 type of people. On one side, there are those guys that just sign the deal, they let the customer figure out how to best navigate through the event. And then after the event, they schedule a call, they ask how the event went, and then they try to get an immediate renewal. But how are you going to protect yourself if you don't know anything about the performance of your customer on site? But most importantly, if you have not done the groundwork pre-event to make sure that that customer is actually prepared to make the most out of your conference. Okay, so here are 4 things that you can do to increase your renewal chances when that conversation finally arrives. Number 1, pre-event, make sure that you are scheduling a proper set of briefing calls where the customer is fully aware about the logistical side of the event, operational side, who's going to be there, what's going to be the setup, what kind of presence they should have. It's an opportunity for you to share some recommendations on the type of people that they should delegate. You can give them recommendations of the type of communication that they should pursue. Based on your knowledge of your delegates and of your venue, you can start giving them advices on when it comes to, for example, allocating exhibitor spaces, or where the most effective area of the floor space is for them, etc., etc. What you also want to do, you want to get them to give you almost like a set of targets, a set of actions that are going to be determining what success looks like versus failure. What that does is not only it makes you understand how you can best help your customer on site to get the most out of the conference, but you are basically protecting yourself when that post-event conversation comes. Because if your customer says that definition of success is to being able to sit through 5 30-minute one-to-one meetings with, CEOs from Fortune 500 companies, and you have evidence to demonstrate that those meetings have actually taken place at the event. When your customer trying to tell you after the event that your event hasn't delivered the outcomes that we're trying to reach, you can easily tell them, hang on a minute, before the event, you told me that had you sat down through 5 CEO meetings for 30 minutes each, you would have deemed that a metric of success. So why is that not a success then? Okay, so it just gives you ammunition in that conversation. Okay, what you also do by prepping the customer prior to the conference is actually, depending on what the level of presence is, you can bring different stakeholders from your business and make sure that that your customer can tap into as much knowledge and intel about your customers and your event as possible. For example, a common things that I would do if you have a customer that is presenting a session at the conference, always bring that conference producer on a call before the event, just to make sure that everything is in line with expectation, that all the material is ready, that the topic is going to be compelling, etc., etc. Okay. Tip number 2: set targets versus expectations. So it's similar to what we just said here, but make sure that your customer has got realistic expectations about what they can achieve, okay? If your customer starts saying that a metric of success is to sit through 100 CEO meetings, chances are that that's never going to happen, okay? So there is no point you giving the false expectation that that's the result that it's going to get if it's far from reality, okay? So always keep them on a level of expectation that meets also reality. Tip number 3 is help them as much as possible when you are physically on site during the event. Okay, what that means is do regular checkouts. Stop by their booth. If you see that those representatives are constantly sitting at the exhibition booth without engaging with the audience and they're purely expecting for people to come in to talk to them, maybe just nudge them. Maybe just go there and say, hey, how about, why not go into this session that is really interesting because blah, 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 blah. Find an angle, find a reason why they should be elsewhere but sitting down at the exhibitor booth looking disengaged. Another thing you can do earlier on in the event, you can maybe ask them to give you a wish list of individuals that they would really, really value meeting with during the course of your conference. This is really delicate because you want to get them a bunch of names, but you don't want to commit that you are going to be able to introduce it to them. You just want to keep that list with you. You want to walk around the conference, and whenever you see one of these prospects lying around, maybe during one of the networking breaks, that just grabbing a coffee or a piece of breakfast or so, you can just kindly approach them, shake their hands, introduce yourself, say something like, for example, hey, I'm working with one of my very good partners, Mr. blah 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 from company X was actually talking to me about you earlier on in a conversation, and mentioned that it would love to meet you at some point today for a couple of minutes chat. Would you mind if I facilitate your introduction? More often than not, unless they've got something else to do, they'll tell you yes. And when you've got that yes, all you have to do is to shepherd them around and bring them to the exhibitor booth and then just facilitate introduction. Hey, Johnny, here's Mr. blah, 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 and just let them get on with it. They'll know what to do, and you've just got a tick on your list. Once again, when it comes after the event, when you're debriefing them with a customer, you have that piece of ammunition with you. You'll be able to tell them, early on, you told me that you wanted to meet Mr. X, Y, and Z. I was able to secure the following 3 meetings out of 4 for you. How did they go? So But when you play this card, make sure, I mean, whichever card you're playing in terms of favors and help on site and going the extra mile, always make sure that you're not promising something that you cannot deliver. Don't overpromise. You know, don't let them give you a list of 50 people that they want to meet, because it will then be impossible for you to meet their criteria. Just ask it for the top 3 people, okay? And then between yourself and your team members and maybe the people that work in your delegate sales team that know the faces of the delegates very well, you can most likely secure at least a couple of those 3 meetings for your customer over 2 days. But again, you gotta juggle your work, because if you are account managing 15 to 20 sponsors over 2 days and you're doing that, you're offering that service to every single customer of yours, you know, you're always going to disappoint people, okay? And then finally, tip number 4 is make sure you've got a thorough follow-up process post-event, okay? Try to schedule a call as close as possible from the conference, you know, with all the stakeholders, all the people ideally that were on site, but also some of the people that maybe signed the contract without attending. So it's quite common for a chief marketing officer sometimes to get involved in the negotiation and the selection of the package, but they may not necessarily show up at the event themselves, because they tend to prioritize maybe like senior sales representatives, okay? So make sure you get those people on a call. Make sure you do a recap of what were the deliverables and how you delivered against them. You can now recap them, the objectives that they have set you pre-event, and you can basically go through how you as an individual or the event delivered against those objectives, okay? And when it comes to follow-up, it's not just a follow-up that you are going to be doing with your sponsor. You also want to make sure that they are following up with the people that they met at the event. Because again, we are always assuming that these salespeople, they are extremely proactive, and as soon as the conference is finished, they're going to jump on the leads that they've generated through the conference. They're going to get on the phone, they're going to schedule a meeting and so on. But guys, how many times have I spoken to one of my former sponsors 1 month, 2 months after the event, and I asked them, hey, how did you guys get on with the people that you met at the conference? We haven't got anything. Nobody wrote to us. We haven't scheduled any meetings. We didn't make any calls. So like, this is where you want to question, like, how is your follow-up process? You know, because inevitably, when you're forward 6 months, 12 months down the line, reasons why things didn't work out get forgotten. What gets remembered and stays fresh in the head is the result. Okay, if your customer didn't convert any clients by sponsoring your event, ultimately they will put a 0 against your conference. Okay, so it's down to you. Okay, well, it's not just down to you, but these 4 tips that I've shared, these are tools that you have to try to somehow have some control over your destiny. Okay, don't just leave things down to faith and hope. Be in control, stay on top of your customer pre, during, and after the event, and over time you will start seeing a noticeable difference in the amount of renewal rates that you get from your sponsors. But most importantly, you're also gonna get a benefit from the perspective that your customer will start understanding that you're not just there focusing on trying to sell them the next product, but you are genuinely interested in their well-being and in making sure that they get a good experience. It is the difference between building one-off type of relationship, if you are more of a transactional type of person, versus building long-term recurring relationships, okay? If you are going to be there in a job for a long time and you are planning to build yourself a name in the market, the way that you're going to do that is by expanding on that network of contacts that you have, leaving the best possible memory and reputation of yourself that you can. Okay, guys, thank you very much for following. I hope you find this video useful. And if you got any comments and any requests for any other content, please drop me a comment on below this video, and I will be back with you guys soon enough. Take care.